Well, hello there to all my followers of darkness, shadow scavengers, and villainy aficionados. Welcome, bienvenue. Here I am, your goal, Lord of Shadows, doing a review about a certain movie that now became an expansion to one of the biggest movie franchises ever since 2014. Of course, I'm talking about John Wick franchise. More precisely, I'm talking about the movie Ballerina. Oh yes, yeah, I finally got a chance to see it, and so here I am, guys, sharing my overall thoughts about it. Now, throughout movie history, one of the biggest subjects, basically, that a lot of people will talk about is that when you have an original movie that basically became successful, and then later on you decide to do sequels, basically they will tell you that the biggest challenge for a basically possible franchise are the sequels. Like, can a sequel surpass the first movie? Can a sequel surpass the previous sequel? How can you extend the story, the character arcs, the chemistry, the actors, who dies, who lives, and so on and so forth? People will basically say that those are the challenges. But for me personally, I think that when you have a movie franchise, in this case, when it comes to John Wick, I think that the biggest challenges are the spin-offs. I think those are the ones who are like the most risky, the most challenging, and also to give you a much more bigger amount of worrying. You know, will this movie or TV show be good or not? Because, for example, when you have the John Wick franchise, you have the Continental, which for a lot of people was not their cup of tea. For me personally, I thought it was fine. It was solid. It was okay. I enjoyed kind of like this overall journey of young Winston before he became a manager of the Continental. I thought the actors were okay. I thought Mel Gibson being Mel Gibson and everything. So overall, I thought the Continental, I thought it was solid. But with the movie Ballerina, that's also another spin-off that I was kind of a little bit worried, it's going to be good or bad. Because one of the things of those kind of projects I ask for is basically a super fun time in the theater. That's all I'm asking. But I never thought this movie is going to be that good. And that's exactly what it was. It was really, really good. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. Absolutely. So, without any further ado, let's just go step by step, shall we? So, basically, the overall plot of Ballerina is basically the story set between John Wick 3 and John Wick 4. And basically, it's about this new character called Eve Macaro, where when she was young, this mysterious villain called the Chancellor and his cult of assassins, they killed her father in front of her, and basically later on Winston took her in, and basically later on she became part of the Ruska Roma, and that from that moment on she entered in this world of assassins, and then in one point in the story she finds a clue that kind of leads back into her past, into going on a path of vengeance. And that's kind of basically the plot. Very classic, very kind of like John Wick style, action packed, story. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of John Wick, like the first movie. Like John Wick got his revenge on the dog because of the dog, and even Makara because of her father. It kind of brought me back some memories when it comes to that. Now, now when it comes to the overall cast list, we have some like old characters returning, from like the great Ian McShane. He's back as Winston. Of course, the great Angelica Houston. She's back as the director. And oh my God, Lance Reddick. I mean, back as the receptionist. Man, when I saw him in this movie, I started choking. I started choking because I couldn't believe that this guy is gone, that he passed away and everything. Like I cannot believe that I'm seeing the very last performance he ever gave, on screen. From like Percy Jackson and the Olympians, all the way to Ballerina. Oh man, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking, but still, I really liked this kind of like small role he had in this movie. I still liked him. He was as charming as ever. And of course, when it comes to Ian McShane, he is just simply great as Winston. And I really liked his overall relationship between him and Eve McCarr. It kind of gives kind of like a father figure kind of like element to it and everything. So I really enjoyed their little moments, and I also enjoyed how this movie kind of explored a little bit more of Angelica Houston's character, the director, because we saw her a little bit in John Wick 3. We didn't have that much, to kind of explore her character. But so I appreciate Ballerina exploring her character, a little bit more into this movie, in this movie, and I really liked this kind of like mentor slash teacher student relationship between her and Eve McCarro. I really like that relationship, in this movie. And of course, besides them, we also had the introduction of another great actor, Gabriel Byrne, as this mysterious chancellor, who's basically the main villain of this movie, and he's the leader of this cult of assassins from Hellstadt. And of course, another actor that I was really kind of surprised to see in this movie is Norman Reedus, who also played one of my most favorite characters in The Walking Dead. Like, I was surprised to see him in this movie, and the type of roles he plays usually, I liked him. I really really liked him. For what they give him, in this movie and everything. So yeah, I mean, it was a really pleasant surprise to see him. And of course, he was as badass as always. Now, of course, speaking of Ballerina, I have to talk about the main star of the show, which of course is Ana de Armas as Eve McCarro. Oh my God. I mean, I knew from before that she's a talented actress, but this movie shows that she has great potential of being an action star. Oh my God. She literally, from this moment on, she became literally the female version of John Wick. Literally, and I loved her character. Like, I loved her performance as Eve McCarro. I loved everything about her character, from like, different like, from like when it comes to her past, her motivation, the overall action sequences that she did. Oh man, like she was great. She was great in this movie. I really liked her performance as Eve McCarro. I really, really did. Like this actress, she has like big potential for being the next action star. Absolutely. From, like I said, I love her backstory. I love her character in general. I loved like different layers that were explored. In this movie, from her, like, her personal, like from her, like, personal elements to like family elements to like, like I said, relationship between the director Winston and her and everything. Like, everything she did was absolutely amazing, and boy, she can kick ass. Absolutely. So Anna de Armas, like, well done. Well done. From the hell of a performance that she gave, I really cannot wait to see more of her character in the future. I really, really cannot wait to see more of her. Now, when it comes to the overall plot, as I've already explained, it's a very typical like John Wick style, plot, where there's basically, you kind of have you have like enough of the story elements to kind of like understand where basically it's going from like beginning to the middle to the very end, and it's filled with action, and that's literally what kind of and Ballerina is exactly that. So the overall plot, as a John Wick style movie, I liked it. Like, I thought, like, no, there was no plot holes. I thought, like, everything went smoothly, very simple, easy to follow, like nothing complicated. Which of course, it's a John Wick movie. Of course, you're not gonna have complicated plots and everything. But I still liked it. I still liked it for like some of the like new elements they added, like, because like like almost like every single John Wick movies, we had also some like serious moments, emotional moments, like everything like on that John Wick level. So overall, when it comes to the plot, I didn't have any complaints at all when it comes to the plot. I enjoyed it from beginning to the very end. Now, oh my God, the one thing I have to praise this movie is, of course, like almost every single John Wick movie, is the action. Oh, holy fucking shit! Like the choreography, like from like this movie is so action packed, scene after scene after scene after scene. Like, you have some scenes that's like, a little small talking, and then immediately action from the beginning to the very end. Like, like from the beginning all the way to the middle, there's a lot of great scenes. Like, for example, like, in that disco, when she was like trying to protect a client, then like, and then And then like some like and then like the action scene in the hotel, which I think was like in I think it was like in Prague, and of course the action scene in Hellstadt. Oh my god, that was like on next level. The Hellstadt grand finale action sequences were like on next level. Not to mention the fight against the main man. Oh my god! Also before I go to the main topic, like to the next topic. Sorry, I just have to say also the action in this movie, it's actually way more violent than in any other John Wick movies I've seen. It's way more violent, way more bloody, and because like there were some moments I was like, oh shit, I was surprised they went they went in that direction and everything, so it's action galore. That's the only thing I can tell you when it comes to like this movie. Now we all knew that Keanu Reeves was going to return as John Wick in Ballerina, and I have to tell you, first and foremost, when I saw the trailers, I thought it's going to be like just one scene, and that's it. Basically, that scene where basically even Macaro is confronting him and everything. I feel like that like it's going to be that one scene and that's it. Boy, was I wrong, because John Wick is in this movie way more than I thought it was going to be. There was a scene at the beginning where basically Makar is asking John Wick for advice, and then all the way to Hellstein when they were confronting each other. There's even a moment in this movie where we actually see John Wick in his typical traditional, action-packed moments. Like even John Wick has some like action scenes moments, and they're beautiful as ever, absolutely beautiful. But one of my most favorite parts about John Wick being in this movie is the confrontation between Makaro and him, and like while they were like fighting everything. I love that how John Wick was like giving her advice and like trying to persuade her to just simply go away, go away from the city, please, don't make me do this. Like I love that, like even though you're like, yes, he knows what he has to do, but he's still trying to give her a chance to walk away. I love those little moments. Like though in those little moments you can see that like John Wick was trying to teach her something, you know, and it was beautifully done. Like his overall role in this movie was beautifully handled. It was like not on the nose, not like thrown into the face or anything. It was really well done, absolutely well done. Now, with that being said, I do have to talk about one of the minuses of this movie, and the first one is the villains. I have to say the Chancellor, even though I'm a fan of Gabriel Byrne as an actor, I really am a fan, but I was hoping to see a little bit more of his character. I mean, he was, he as a villain, he is a very classic type of John Wick villain, but comparing him to the Marquis de Ramon, to Vigo Tarraso, or Santino D'Antonio, or even like the Adjudicator from John Wick 3, like comparing him to them, I would say he's like one of the most, he's like on the, he's like on the last place when it comes to ranking from John Wick villains from worst to best. Like he's on the last place, because I was really hoping to see more of him and everything, but in the end, that's the only one part of the disappointment I have when it comes to like the Ballerina movie. I was hoping to see more of the villains, basically, you know. But again, they serve their purpose. The Chancellor served his purpose story wise and everything, but I was still hoping a little bit more when it comes to the villains and everything. Now, when it comes to my final thoughts, like I said, the majority of the movie I have praises. When it comes to I love the casting. Ana de Armas was just simply magnificent as Eve Macaro. I really like the story all the way from the beginning to the very end. Although after seeing the ending, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like the John Wick 2 ending consequence and everything. So basically, now which kind of makes her officially becoming the female version of John Wick and everything. But overall, like I said, from the casting, from the story, from the characters, the action sequences, even like the musical background and everything, like everything when it comes to Ballerina being like a very typical John Wick movie, it was great fun. I really liked the movie. The majority part of what I've seen in this movie, I was not disappointed. The only two negatives I had was basically the way how the villains were handled, and also Norman Reedus' character. That's the only two negatives I have. Like for the villains to have some a little bit more challenging villains, and also for Norman Reedus, I was hoping for his character to have something to do something a little bit more than what they gave him, in the actual movie and everything. Because I really like the actor. But overall, even though he had a small role, I still, I still think, story wise, he was handled, he was handled okay. But again, personally, I wish that they gave him something more to do. But with those, those two being my only negatives, like everything else, I was not disappointed. I had fun. I had fun. I liked the story. I really liked the soundtrack. The characters were interesting. Loved seeing new characters and old characters returning. Keanu Reeves as John Wick. He's still badass as always. Anna de Armas, she was great as the main character. Even Macaro. The fights were amazing. Even like some of the sequences, the way how they were filmed were absolutely mesmerizing. So overall, great fun, surprisingly good. So overall, I'm gonna give this movie a solid 8 out of 10 as a John Wick movie. 8 out of 10. And one thing for certain, I cannot wait to see more of Ian McCarthy's character in the future. I cannot wait to see it. And with that being said, we've come to an end to another movie review video and everything. You guys know the drill. Comment, like, subscribe, give me your personal thoughts and ideas. If you have seen Ballerina already, what did you thought about the movie? What did you thought about Evan McCarthy's character? What did you thought about John Wick's role in the movie? About the old characters returning, the new characters, the villains, everything about the Ballerina movie in general. Just put it in the comment section down below. And as always, stay tuned for more. Laura Shadows, like always, signing off. Or as I like to say, later, fuckers.